Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is a review of the Arturia MicroFreak. And this is brought to you by Zounds, an online music retailer company that has pretty much everything you want and can care about making music, whether you're playing it, recording it, producing it, performing it, synthesizing it. They have options. And because I want synthesizers, I'm looking at all those synthesizers, and this is one of them. This is Arturia's MicroFreak. And what I like about it a lot is that as a thing, it's not, as for what it is, it's not very expensive. It seems kind of expensive when you think of it in the grand scheme of comparing it to something like a plugin, but it's a bit dangerous because while this thing is what it is for at the price point, that same price point represents like an oscillator in the modular world. And that's an important comparison because this thing has no post effects. It doesn't even have stereo. It is a mono synth. And it does have this paraphonic mode that lets you play chords when you're playing that up. But for the most part, if you just have it on normal mode, right now I'm playing it with the key step, but it does have this super neat capacitive touch keyboard involved with it, which is a really like a neat thing about it. But honestly, I could do with just having this top part and triggering it with something external. Performance wise though, it also has this pad touch sensitive strip that does pitch spread by default, but you can also set it to do different things when you're in the sequencer mode and have something for it to actually do with it. So it has an ability to do sequencing, and it's mostly it records a thing and then you have it saved and it's cool. I'm pretty sure you can save patterns and stuff. It might be per preset thing. Honestly, that's like this thing's weakest ability is that it can sequence. But it's an Arturia product, which means that it doesn't matter what it does, it has a sequencer in it. And it also has the ARP in it, which is what you saw it doing a second ago. But I'm triggering it with the key steps thing. And I engage the hold mode on here, which means that when you hold down the notes, it'll actually do that in ARP it. But why it's not doing it here is because I have this set to sync externally, so that it only cares about when the ARP is syncing to a beat. It only cares about the beat coming from the key step. So the beauty of it is that it is easy to control. It does have this modulation matrix, and it does have this neato cycling envelope. The cycling envelope is essentially an LFO that is controlled speed-wise based on how long the parameters of an envelope are. And that's because it's like what it's doing is essentially looping an envelope. And the control parameters of it are all things, like all of these knobs are things that can be assigned as modulation destinations. Because like the main matrix, the matrices brute, you can hold one of these buttons, move one of those knobs, and it'll link it to a thing, and then you get to do things like control its value based on key position, the envelope position. Like the cyclic envelope itself can modulate it. How dope is that? That's the way of this face business, is that you're going to get a lot of options and a lot of ways to modulate them. Now let's talk about the things that you might want to modulate. In the key step video, I mentioned that this thing's core parameters are things that have CC values. And if you check the manual, it'll tell you what they are. But this means that I can select those things as elements that a CC changed by something like the key steps external control. And the value of it in a circumstance like this is that you'll see how many different things you can do. And you'll start to see why this is a ridiculous bang for its buck. So first up is just this regular like basic waveform stuff. And then that's what this type node does. It changes what mode the synth is in, and it'll be what kind of type it is. And then the wave is what within the mode's option, like, are you going to have. And the timbre is how that particular mode is going to be expressed. And the shape of it is whatever other parameters left. Like all of these guys run out of stuff to do, and end up just doing a kind of basic chorus effect, which is fine and all, but like it's usually these first two are the fun things to do with whatever it is that you're doing. And then this guy is going to determine the main aspect of what you're doing. And it's a lot. Because you got regular basic waveland. Super saw land, which lets you choose between saws, squares, and triangles and all that stuff. Wave table land, but you could choose between 16 different tables of just stuff. And in analog world, wavetables have been around a lot longer than we understand wavetables, like in the serum and massive sense. And they're used, they're valuable because getting complicated wave, not even just the recording of modulation, but just having a different wave format all without a lot of work, just to begin with one is powerful. And to begin with one that you do have modulation control over is kind of ridiculous, like in a package like this at this price. So then you get a bunch of those, and then you get the position of the wavetable, and then that chorus value that we mentioned before. And after that, we get a harmonic kind of present mode, which still has modulation in it. But it is additive, so it's less about filter change and sort of like crossfading and more just getting the harmonics to do their thing. Then it has this Car Plus Strong thing, which is a short, little, quick, elegant way to kind of synthesize the reality of a stringed instrument, that is. And it does a pretty good job of doing it, but mainly its value is in a package like this is that it lets you make even more complicated supersaw layers. You apply that and get some reverb going, and you'd have a pretty okay sounding deal. And layer it up once or twice with a thing, and like treat it like a real instrument, because it is essentially one, like a guitar, and just double track it and pan it, and you have very good sounding stuff. After that, we have the virtual analog junk, which is a combination of a bunch of what would be like analog-esque oscillators, and this is actually one element where this this piece of hardware starts to demonstrate like how smart Arturia is about particular choices. So in this setup, the wave knob actually controls the detuning of the two different oscillators against each other. And why that's important is because that means, like, normally that would be like a coarse pitch, fine pitch experience, but in this case, the knob is both. It hangs around the octave positions and then quickly moves through the ones in between them. That because it knows it's where you want to hang around. It knows that for the most part you're going to do Reese-esque kind of close knit tight control, or you're going to go hard in the opposite direction, and it gives you the operation to live in there like by default. And it is very, very clever. I dig it a lot. After this is the wave shaper with this is just a distorted kind of so you can get a lot of those housey tones out of there. Which you can also do with the 2-operator FM, which does everything you could think it does, like including internal feedback, which is what this last parameter is, and that's a really powerful one. And so, like 2-operator FM with feedback is essentially 3-operator FM, and it as long as one of those operators is the same pitch as one of the other ones. But the point is that like it's very complicated for something so small like this. There's a formant thing, which is exactly what it sounds like. There's a chord setup thing, which does a lot of neat stuff, and this one actually does a thing I want to show off, which so not only do you get to select like what kind of chord you're picking, which is something that you can automate that parameter, and you can pick what kind of waveform you've got going on. You can also choose how weighted the chord stack is, high or low. And that's super cool because that's an effect that normally is a sort of filtered experience, but it's actually a very future-basy thing to do. And with something like the cycling envelope that you can apply to stuff, that's like a really cool deal. The timbre is already a destination in here, so I don't even have to go very far to do that. I just go doop, doop. If you hit the shift button, there's a shape option. Let's change the tension of that particular curve too. So there's lots of options there. Lots of options. It's just the name of this thing. And like this as a thing, like if I were to recommend to someone like how you would approach doing hardware with like the modular reality, like I like the modular setup, but I would almost not want to get a lot of oscillators, if I had the option to have one of these. It even has CV outs in the back. It has a one voice, like the CV set, mod, pitch, and gate. And that means that like you actually could just very directly integrate this into a modular setup without a lot of work, and it gives such incredible like just starting point power that you save so much money in how you would have to build this out of individual elements, like by a lot. Like, we're not even done. After this, it has a speech synthesizer, which is kind of okay, a modal thing, which I don't know what that means other than it's kind of FM-like. It gets very atonal, which I imagine is designed to create kind of bellish tones. And like then a noise element that also has high frequency screechy stuff that you could filter in. Plus the bit crusher. Like, it's very intelligent to not just be white noise or just different kinds of colors of noise, but all this like intermodular stuff that you do, because the whole point of a generator like this is to have the ability to generate a wide variety of tones. Because, like, sure, this is just one thing, and if you're going to be using this, you're going to be recording a lot of individual snippets, but with all the stuff I just showed you, with enough recording time and layering, not only can you do anything, but you could do so many things a lot of stuff can't. And also a lot faster and a lot cleaner. And not only that, but there is a vocoder. There is straight up a vocoder built into it. And it, like, what the absolute hell? That's very weird. Okay. Nothing happened. That's okay. The vocoder is built in. And I would demonstrate this, but I don't actually have a gear that can, because the input for it is special. It is a 3-pronged 1/8 inch input, and that's something that, like, I actually do have a thing that is literally that, but it's not heavy the way that's supposed to. Basically, you get a firmware update for this, and then it lets you use that input like an actual microphone, and then it'll apply itself to the vocoder, and you can use it, and it's great. There's also a model of this you can buy that has a gooseneck microphone that's designed to do this without a lot of effort, and that's super cool. I don't know how much more expensive it is in this one, but it's probably worth it. But overall, this thing is a win. Like, as far as like synths you could get that could propel you like hardware wise, if you care at all about having hardware power, this is an excellent first step. Especially because if you get good at using this thing, you'll pretty well learn what it's like to communicate and live with the rest of the synth universe. Not just Arturia stuff either, but also things that aren't designed as well as Arturia stuff. Yeah. Thanks again to Zazounds for sending this over and letting me have a play with it for a while. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.